Mortal Kombat versus DC Universe deserves way more love. It is such an overhated game that when you finally jump right back into it, you start to embrace a little bit. And plus, if you hear the backstory of it. So let's go ahead and break all this down. This past weekend, I had been streaming Mortal Kombat versus DC. I've been doing a whole Mortal Kombat streamathon, so make sure you're coming on board. Cheap plug to our Twitch, TikTok lives. They have been getting super lit. Very fun. And also I want to thank y'all for almost 1,000 subscribers right here on our Timster channel. It is incredible as we're doing stuff for the FGC and we're moving forward. We're gonna have tons of fun stuff for MK1 also. So when we're streaming this Mortal Kombat versus DC Universe, we recognize the gameplay is not bad. It is the final game of the whole 3D era essential. It is a game that has a backstory that is very touching, right? Let's take an overview on this. You can even back the research on this. You can go check it out yourself. Basically, what was happening when this game came out? Originally, it was going to be just Mortal Kombat 8. Now, it is still Mortal Kombat 8, but it was actually going to be a reboot similar to what we see with Mortal Kombat 9 right now. Now, how this all ended up happening was the fact that MKDC was something that adopted Mortal Kombat. Midway was their last game. You know, they were going down. That 3D era didn't get that mainstream audience. Now it's fantastic for lore lovers, MK grinders, and people that just know the culture of MK and old school people like me. But what was happening is that Midway was going completely bankrupt. And they had, I guess they were in discussions. I don't know the exact story from that notion, but Midway was for sure financially done. And we weren't going to have Mortal Kombat at all when Mortal Kombat versus DC came out. And so what had happened was DC, or Warner Brother Games, and what is now known as NetherRealm Studio, like they adopted Mortal Kombat. And they tried to get some of their most monumental characters to put villains and actual good guys, at least a good handful of them. Now, there was going to be DLC and stuff. They didn't agree on that also. But what this was kind of like an audition and then a trial for what we eventually have in Mortal Kombat 9. But how that happened was that Midway was going bankrupt, financially done, marketing was done. There's nothing to do for Mortal Kombat anymore. They were basically going to give up and hang it up, similar to what smaller fighting games have done in some way. You know, Killer Instinct had not really bankrupt, but I mean, it's you know, it's not that marketing push that we really wanted on that latest reboot of Killer Instinct. And so what had happened was DC kind of adopts them, Warner Brothers, and they do this MKDC. It keeps the 3D era notion of things, but the gameplay is actually not that bad. And so like having that backstory and knowing that this is what jump-started Mortal Kombat 9 is really the cool essential, right? They take some of that 3D notions, then they add all these things. Now, yes, it is a team game. There's not a lot of gore. Everybody's not going to like the fatalities. But if you look at it and you clock out, you check out from just being too harsh, it is actually a really fun game. I was playing on very hard. I was doing the towers. I did the story mode. And I was like, man, this game is actually real good. The fluidity and for what it is for being in 2008. And obviously when we're in the moment, it's a lot harder to really recognize just due to the fact that it wasn't really the Mortal Kombat that we're used to. But when you think of that backstory of like, damn, like this was Mortal Kombat's last hope, like that's like us being in a huge financial crisis and somebody just kind of an investor comes around and is like, here you go, like you can have this. And that's pretty cool because having your back against the wall and having to create something and eventually make it a masterpiece, which was Mortal Kombat 9, is incredible. So MKDC was definitely against the wall. They were struggling, Mortal Kombat, and then when they had this partnership, they had to think of a whole writer aspect, and they put a lot of work into this project, which was kind of weird, and it did shock people, and it's a love-hate. So I feel like it's overhated, but not really underrated. It just doesn't get love in totality just because it's so hard to make those two combined together. If this would have released possibly later, I believe that this would have been a little bit more, like, I guess, accepted, because we have all these multiverses type situations anyways, just like what Injustice 2 does, literally calling their gameplay a multiverses instead of like the latter format. And so this was really cool to give us these types of games and crossovers, and it actually tested the idea of a full crossover. So MKDC tests the full crossover notion, bringing in that, okay, well, maybe they can really shape up these worlds, right? Again, this was before like the whole multiverses stuff was very popular, what superheroes are doing now. I mean, aside from comic books, but what we're seeing on the mainstream, we're talking in a mainstream asset. So what had happened was that had happened. That was their trial period. I guess while that happened, it didn't really get all the sales they wanted. It flopped in terms of what Mortal Kombat was really, I guess, really hoping for, because Mortal Kombat is just Mortal Kombat. We all know Mortal Kombat is a badass game, and it's always popular, right? Just like MK1, the push for it. But what had happened after was cool, was that all of this started happening, and so Midway did file for bankruptcy. So because the trial period with MKDC wasn't the best. But what had happened is that Warner Brothers saw something in them. They adapted them. They adopted them. They really brought them in. They gave them the money, the financial backing, the marketing, and the vision. They let Ed Boon have that vision. And it does show that on research that Ed Boon was really on the vision of like, we need to do more storytelling. We need to push that story mode. And so they tried it with MKDC. Then they really went next level with MK9, a full reboot, full 2D era and everything, which was NetherRealm Studio, which was the last Midway studio in Chicago to be actually bought out, replaced Warner Brothers Games, and then NetherRealm Studio. And then they gave us that Mortal Kombat 9 that we all love in 2011. So it kind of had like a 2-year development phase of what was going on behind the scenes to really give us that Mortal Kombat 9 masterpiece. But right before it was that notion of a collaboration, and what made that collaboration for MKDC jumpstart everything. Yeah, they ended a 3D. They didn't make it a team game. They brought Mortal Kombat 9 freshly, and it helped that whole Freddy Krueger Kratos crossover. And so that was a huge thanks to the MKDC Essential. And there's just so much inspiration that MKDC did bring. But once you recognize the fact that we would not have Mortal Kombat anymore if it wasn't for MKDC and for somebody believing in Midway's vision, Mortal Kombat's vision. And it's crazy that they filed for bankruptcy. So our childhood game, especially if you're old like me, it would have been gone into the dirt, and that would have sucked, because it's one of the coolest, most creative ideas. And I think Warner Brothers saw the money behind it, which gave us MK9, the MKX, MK11, and now of course we're getting the MK1 reboot. So in my actual aspect, when I went back to this game overall, I was like, damn, this gameplay is dope. Damn, this gameplay was pretty fluid. At least the strings and combos, everything around it, of course, features was a lot more watered down. It's a teen game. But when I looked at it in hindsight and was just having fun on stream, I was like, man, and it was a hit too. Like, everybody was watching, and it is very controversial. So everybody's being very controversial. Also, like, people were overly hating on it. People were like actually overrating it. People just kind of were just cool with it the way I was, where I was like, damn, this game's just a fun game. Like, I think that it didn't get enough. And some people didn't even recognize what the hell I was playing, because it's all the way back in 2008. So it was a great run for that. And I was like, man, this is cool. This is what jump started us to even have Mortal Kombat again. And I think it's something that should be vastly more appreciated. And instead of overly hated, you don't have to rate it high at all, but it's just a cool continuum of like what we actually get now from MK11, MKX, MK9, and of course MK1 now. So y'all gotta let me know what's up. And what we did also, we had it like fully like on board with, we upscaled it. We tried to make it look the best we could, man. It was a fun time. Y'all let me know though. Y'all rocking out MKDC, man. Leave some comments in the comments below. I appreciate y'all hitting us up with a subscribe. We're almost there to 1,000, and so that allows us to continue the next part of our dream, and we really do appreciate you for that, guy. I appreciate y'all. All right, I'll see y'all soon, man. Peace.